Happy day 3 of online learning. It is Wednesday, April 8th. Let's take a look at our pacing guide, see what's on the menu for today in Honors English 2. Let's check it out. We've got to read pages 19 to 22. Look, I'm giving y'all a break. You've only got to read a few pages. And then we've got to complete our can and cannot chart portion of our reading task. So let's check that out, see what it looks like, maybe get started together, and then I'll turn y'all loose to finish on your own. Google Classroom, y'all know the drill at this point. Lesson 1, Part 1, Fahrenheit 451, lots of ones. Okay. Open up your PDF of the text, have your reading guide open in the other tab. Let's get started. Before we start reading, let's take a look at what we've got to complete for today. So over here it says 19 to 28. You don't have to read that entire section unless you really want to. Your task for today, Wednesday, is 19 to 22. So as you read 19 to 22, you are just going to be responsible today for tracking what the hound can and cannot do. What's the hound? Who's the hound? We're going to figure out right now. So over here, you are going to just bullet what the hound can do, and then over here, bullet what the hound cannot do. That is your only task for today. You don't have to worry about any of these other questions unless you continue reading on to 28. So let's go ahead and get started reading together. Scroll to page 19. Scroll, scroll, scroll. Here we are. Okay, let's get started together. The rain was thinning away, and the girl was walking in the center of the sidewalk with her head up and the few drops falling on her face. She smiled when she saw Montag. "Hello." He said hello, and then said, "What are you up to now?" "I'm still crazy. The rain feels good. I'd love to walk in it." "I don't think I'd like that," he said. "You might if you tried." "I never have." She licked her lips. "Rain even tastes good." "What do you do, go around trying everything once?" he asked. "Sometimes twice." She looked at something in her hand. "What have you got there?" he said. "I guess it's the last of the dandelions this year. I didn't think I'd find one on the lawn this late. Have you ever heard of rubbing it under your chin? Look." She touched her chin with the flower, laughing. "Why?" "If it rubs off, it means I'm in love." "Has it?" He could hardly do anything else but look. "Well," she said. "You're yellow under there? Fine. Let's try you now. It won't work for me. Here." Before he could move, she had put the dandelion under his chin. He drew back and she laughed. "Hold still." She peered under his chin and frowned. "Well," he said. "What a shame," she said. "You're not in love with anyone." "Yes, I am." "It doesn't show." "I am very much in love." He tried to conjure up a face to fit the words, but there was no face. "I am." "Oh, please don't look that way." "It's that dandelion," he said. "You've used it all up on yourself. That's why it won't work for me." "Of course, that must be it. Oh, now I've upset you. I can see I have. I'm sorry. I really am." She touched his elbow. "No, no," he said quickly. "I'm all right. I've got to be going, so say you forgive me. I don't want you angry with me." "I'm not angry. Upset, yes." "I've got to go see my psychiatrist now. They make me go. I made up things to say. I don't know what he thinks of me. He says I'm a regular onion. I keep him busy peeling away the layers." "I'm inclined to believe that you need the psychiatrist," said Montag. "You don't mean that." He took a breath and let it out at last and said, "No, I don't mean that. The psychiatrist wants to know why I go out and hike around in the forest and watch the birds and collect butterflies. I'll show you my collection someday." "Good." "They want to know what I do with all my time. I tell them that sometimes I just sit and think, but I won't tell them what. I've got them running. And sometimes I tell them I like to put my head back like this and let the rain fall into my mouth. Tastes just like wine. Have you ever tried it?" "No, I—" "You have forgiven me, haven't you?" "Yes." He thought about it. "Yes, I have. God knows why. You're peculiar, you're aggravating, yet you're easy to forgive." "Sounds like all of y'all students." "Sorry, love you." "You say you're 17? Well, next month." "How odd. How strange. And my wife, 30, and yet you seem so much older at times. I can't get over it." "You're peculiar yourself, Mr. Montag. Sometimes I even forget you're a fireman. Now, may I make you angry again?" "Go ahead." "How did it start? How did you get into it? How did you pick your work, and how did you happen to think to take the job you have? You're not like the others. I've seen a few. I know. When I talk, you look at me. When I said something about the moon, you looked at the moon last night. The others would never do that. The others would walk off and leave me talking or threaten me. No one has any time anymore for anyone else. You're one of the few who put up with me. That's why I think it's so strange you're a fireman. It just doesn't seem right for you somehow. He felt his body divide itself into a hotness and a coldness, a softness and a hardness, a trembling and a not trembling, the two halves grinding upon one another. So there we've got he lists quite a few different things that are opposite of one another. So we've got some juxtaposition, some things contradicting one another. So it seems to me that something deep down in Montag feels conflicted. "You'd better run on to your appointment," he said, and she ran off and left him standing there in the rain. Only after a long time did he move, and then, very slowly as he walked, he tilted his head back in the rain for just a few moments and opened his mouth. Ooh, now y'all are going to get to reading about the mechanical hound. We'll read this first paragraph together, and then I will leave you to complete the rest on your own. The mechanical hound slept but did not sleep, lived but did not live, in its gently humming, gently vibrating, softly illuminated kennel back in a dark corner of the firehouse. The dim light of 1 in the morning, the moonlight from the open sky framed through the great window, touched here and there on the brass and the copper and the steel of the faintly trembling beast. So this beast, the mechanical hound, is not a real dog. It's all made out of metal and steel, brass and copper. Lights flickered on of its ruby glass, and on sensitive capillary hairs in the nylon brushed nostrils of the creature that quivered gently, 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 its 8 legs spidered under it on rubber padded paws. So this thing's got 8 legs. That's creepy. Montag slid down the brass pole. He went out to the city, and the clouds had cleared away completely, and he lit a cigarette and came back to bend down and look at the hound. It was like a great bee come home from some field where the honey is full of poison wildness, of insanity and nightmare, its body crammed with that overrich nectar, and now it was sleeping the evil out of itself. Ooh, so this thing seems bad. "Hello," whispered Montag, fascinated as always with the dead beast, the living beast. Nights, when things got dull, which was every night, the men slid down the brass poles and set the ticking combinations of the olfactory system of the hound, and let loose rats in the firehouse areaway, and sometimes chickens, and sometimes cats that would have to be drowned anyway, and there would be betting to see which the hound would seize first. The animals were turned loose. 3 seconds later, the game was done. The rat, cat, or chicken caught half across the areaway, gripped in gentling paws while a 4-inch hollow-steel needle plunged down from the proboscis of the hound to inject massive jolts of morphine or procaine. The pawn was then tossed in the incinerator. A new game began. So you would think that because this thing is a hound, or supposed to be in the model or style of a dog, that it would, rip it apart with its jaw. No, this thing takes out a needle and injects it with a lethal dose of morphine. And I lied when I said I'd only read the first little thing with y'all. We've read the whole thing together. Montag stayed upstairs most nights when this went on. There had been a time 2 years ago when he'd bet with the rest of them, and lost a week's salary, and faced Mildred's insane anger, which showed itself in veins and blotches. But now at night he lay under his bunk, face turned to the wall, listening to whoops of laughter below and the piano string scurry of rat feet, the violin squeaking of mice, and the great shadowing, motioned silence of the hound, leaping out like a moth into the raw light, finding, holding its victim, inserting the needle, and going back to its kennel to die as if a switch had been turned. Montag touched the muzzle. The hound growled. Montag jumped back. The hound half rose in its kennel and looked at him with green, blue, neon light flickering in its suddenly activated eye bulbs. It growled again, a strange rasping combination of electrical sizzle, a frying sound, a scraping of metal, a turning of cogs that seemed rusty and ancient with suspicion. "No, no, boy," said Montag, his heart pounding. He saw the silver needle extended upon the air an inch. Pull back, extend, pull back. The growl simmered in the beast, and it looked at him. Montag backed up. The hound took a step from its kennel. Montag grabbed the brass pole with one hand. The pole, reacting, slid upward and took him through the ceiling, quietly. He stepped off in the half-lit deck of the upper level. He was trembling, and his face was green-white. Below, the hound had sunk back down upon its eight incredible insect legs and was humming to itself again, its multifaceted eyes at peace. Montag stood, letting the fears pass, by the drop hole. Behind him, four men at a card table under a green-lighted light in the corner glanced briefly, but said nothing. Only the man with the captain's hat and the sign of the phoenix on his hat at last, curious, his playing cards in his thin hand, talked across the long room. So we even read a page further than we were supposed to. Cool, we're ahead for today. So you're going to go back to your part one guide, list, I don't know, list at least three things that the hound can do, list at least three things that the hound cannot do. You might have to make some logical inferences here when it comes to listing what the hound cannot do, but consider what we know about it, right? It's mechanical, it's not alive. Think about its eyes, think about its legs. You might have to go back and reread. So again, just three bullets here, three bullets here. Happy reading, happy work. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk tomorrow. Love y'all. Bye.